the show where we explore the moment people have to let go of destructive pattern, limiting identity, and the internal battle to rebuild their life with purpose and clarity. Our today's guest is Patrick William, TLS speaker, award-winning artist, black belt in both karate, do and aikido, independent scholar, visionary educator, and founder and president of Satori Innovation, a consulting and ideation accelerator with over 4 decades of teaching deep learning to audience across the United States, Japan, and China. Patrick has spent his life at the intersection of creativities, innovation, and human potential. But what drives everything Patrick does is quite conviction that creativities cannot be lost, misplaced, maybe, or colonized by years of conditioning and conformity, absolutely, but never lost. Patrick left what he was when intuition told him it was time. Not a crisis, not a calculation, just the deep inner knowing that something truer was waiting. That same intuition now sits at the heart of everything he teaches about restoring authenticity, creativity. It's really a pleasure and honor having you on the show, Patrick.
I'm happy to be
Yeah,
here.
thank you so much, sir. So, Patrick, you describe creativity as a superpower. We are all born with effortless as children and gradually disconnected from us as an adult. When did you first notice the disconnection happening in yourself or in the people around you? And what did it look like?
That's a good question. I've been working with children since I was a teenager, and I was the first time I worked with children in a professional setting was teaching them ice skating, and it was my first challenge to figure out how I knew how to ice skate and assist them in learning how to ice skate. So when you're put in that situation, and especially when you're young, I was maybe 15 or 16, you're closer to their age at that moment than you are
Yeah,
when you're
yeah,
30. So you can relate to them and how they're interacting with the world. So that was the first real exposure I got to observe, how children pick up information, how they learn, and especially it was about their body and doing something that is really unusual, to put little blades on the bottoms of your boots and move around on ice. It's very challenging. So that gave me a lot of insight. And then when I got older and into college, I started working with children in elementary schools and watching how they learn. And then when I got a little bit older, I was out in the world and I was doing artist in residencies, visiting artist programs, and I was also inside of school systems and really watching how children learn. But there was one particular young person. I was about maybe 26, and this little boy was a little older than 3, and he was absolutely incredible. I was in a daycare and I opened in the morning and he was the first one in the door. And he immediately went to the table where we had crayons and other things to draw with. And every single day he would start drawing and just inventing. And it was amazing to watch him. And at the end of the year, when he was a little over 4, then he stopped completely. And I was like, whoa, what is going on? And I noticed that he was trying to draw, and this was the cartoon at the time, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he couldn't reproduce them. So he got super frustrated and he just stopped drawing. And that gave me a big clue. So what I started to notice is that children at a certain age, they get frustrated with drawing. In particular, I'm a
yeah,
painter, so I'm more in tune with that. But it applies to all the other arts also. Children get to a certain age, and if they get frustrated and they don't have the right kind of encouragement, they'll just stop. And so really started paying attention when I would go into school systems to watch which kids are doing really well drawing or painting and which ones are having a lot of frustration and what age group they're in. So it was just a lot of observation because I was curious. The little boy, his name was Sam, and he's, good grief, now he's probably 30
yeah,
something, right? And but it was just such a striking difference. It was almost like one day he was drawing and the next day he stopped. So that sparked something in me to really start noticing and looking and asking questions and thinking about it and reading about what other people are contemplating about how children learn and how children express themselves either through play or creativity or through
Yeah,
imagination.
I mean,
That was a great.
yeah, amazing. That was really more like a graphical moment, being that, yeah, you saw him more like on the first day
Yeah.
having to scrabble to write, and the next day he just stopped entirely. So use the term
Yes.
creative or colonization, the process by which something external invade and take over our innate creativity capacity. What does that colonization look like in practice? And where does it most commonly begins?
Yeah, it's so through my process of really watching and understanding, at least for myself, how it looked like children are interacting with their creativity, I started thinking, well, I need to call what I need to name what I'm sensing. And colonization is one of the first terms that I came up with to describe what I see happening to children is that on the inside of our mind or our psyche or how we think and how we feel and how we know we're thinking and feeling. So that starts to happen when we're 8, 9, 10 years old. We get a certain amount of self-awareness and knowing that I'm a person, you're a person,
Yeah,
I have friends that are little persons. So when that's happening, it is also a time when schools are putting more pressure on children with respect to academics. So academics are super important. I love academics. I love reading, writing, I love arithmetic, I love science, all that. It's super important, obviously, but not to the detriment of creativity, play, and imagination. And so what I saw was that the school system in particular, but this also happens at home and it happens out in the
yeah,
world, but children have less and less time to be creative, to play, and to use their imagination. So it's sort of an invasion on their internal psyche of these other responsibilities, the usually the academics. School systems that stress testing and they spend a lot of time getting the kids ready for the standardized test. And they have their use sort of. I'm not a fan of
yeah,
standardized testing. The problem is that there's so much emphasis on that children have less and less time internally to relax, to play, to use their imagination, and to be creative. And that's the takeover, so to speak, of our internal processes of creativity and imagination and play. And that's the colonization. The academics push
mm,
everything away from our internal world. And then we don't have any time. 7, 8 year olds, it seems, don't have much time at
yeah,
all to do things like you probably did, or I did for sure, when we were 8. We went out and played. We met with our friends. We hung out and invented things. And that's super important. And that's what creative colonization takes away from us.
yeah. Really a whole lot. Just make reference of the fact that the drilling here and there, all the various tests come into being. The fact that there is no space between those particular lessons. It actually more like a colonized way we actually think about. Yeah, finding out ways we could actually get to reproduce something.
Mm.
So you have spent over 4 decades of teaching creativities across widely different contexts, martial art, fine arts, business innovation, education. What is the common thread of resistance you encounter, the place where people most consistently get stuck?
Mm, yeah, it's intense. People are, I think, because of this kind of secret takeover internally that people have experienced with creative colonization. It builds up a kind of resistance. Children love to play. Children love to use their imagination, and children love to be creative. And when that gets shut down and pushed into like a closet inside their psyche or a basement, they develop resistance. Internally, they still want to go play. They still want to have fun. They still want to use their imaginations and they still want to be creativity, but it's being kept from them because they have no time. They have to study for the tests. They have all these other commitments that when they do feel they want to do something fun, they want to be a little creative, that's when they feel that resistance. They want to, but they're being kept from it. So people, when they're presented with the possibility to be creative, when something new comes up, let's say a person who really loved to work with clay when they were 8 or 9 years old, and something happened. Somebody told them, you can't do that very well, and they just stopped, but they really want to. And maybe when they're 25, a friend says, I just started a pottery class. Do you want to join me? There's the feeling inside like, oh yeah, but then the feeling of, oh, but I'm not very good. This self-judgment is one of the biggest parts of people's resistance, that I'm not very good at drawing, so I'm not going to take that class with my friend. Or I'm not very good at pottery, I'm not going to take that class with that pottery class with my friend. So those kinds of examples of that internal judgment, that's accurate. It's not accurate. It doesn't matter how good you are at it. You have to start doing it, and then
Yeah, better
you'll
at it.
become better at it. So that resistance of judging themselves, that's one of the biggest hurdles to get over. And it takes work, and it takes a way of communicating with people that's encouraging and helping people be gentle with
Yeah,
themselves. Because if they're harsh, it's not going to
yeah,
work. So people just have to remember that, okay, I had some things happen to me when I was little that I just got away from being inside my creativity. So it just takes a little bit of encouragement to help them get over that resistance. How do I describe?
how do you describe that kind of
Mm,
signal to people who has been conditioned to distrust it?
yes. Well, I think part of it is assisting people in knowing who they are better level. And again, like I just said, encouraging people to be gentle with themselves. So to explore new things, we have to risk. When you had the idea, I'm going to do a podcast, I bet there's all kinds of
Yeah,
things that were challenging,
yeah,
right? And still challenging. But that's good. That pushes us. And once we do a little thing, once we get things going, it's like, oh gosh, this is both
yeah,
easier and harder than I
yeah.
thought it was going to be. But that gets us to go a little bit more and do a little bit more and challenge ourselves in new ways. And it's part of how we learn to risk. And when I talk about creativity, I talk about all kinds of aspects of creativity, not just about art, but art is a really easy way to see how creativity happens. And we have to learn how to risk and how to fail. And when we're learning to draw and we're trying to draw an apple, the first time we draw an
Yeah,
apple, it's not gonna look
yeah,
much like an apple. So one of the positive parts of the arts is that we get to not do it right over and over again and start to understand what it means or what it looks like or sounds like when we do it right. If we're learning to play music, we hear when we hit the wrong, if we're playing the violin or the piano, we know when we hit the wrong key, right?
yeah,
Then it goes away, and then we can try it again. So there's a way in which it's important to help people understand that when we're rediscovering how to communicate, how to express our creativity, that it's going to take some practice. And once we practice it more and more, then we will get more accustomed to how it feels when it's just right in the sweet spot of being creative. And I'm trying to circle back to the one of the points right away when you asked the question. It was with that special when you that's the quality of when you're inside of a practice with capital P, like an important practice, and you can look back and see your progress, which is super, super important. And that gives people confidence to move forward. In a way, the process of making the drawing wrong and or playing the wrong note on the piano is sort of kind of related to the name of your
yeah,
podcast. You have to quit to win. You know, I have to crumple up that drawing, throw it away, and work on a new drawing. So that's the quitting part. And the quitting part is totally connected to winning, because the next time I make the drawing, I may make it a little bit better. The next time I play the song on the piano, I may only hit 4 wrong notes instead of 12. So I I love the name of your
Yeah, thank
podcast
you, sir.
because there's so much about having to stop, forget about what I just did, and then I can move
Yeah.
forward to the
Mm.
win. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Just speak a whole lot of volumes that, yeah, the more you actually get trying at it, the more better your visions towards what you could do better and towards improvement. Thank you. So you distinguish between general creativities, the kind all of us use daily, and the specialized creativity, the kind required in arts, science, invention, and business. Why does that distinction matters, and what does it unlock for someone who says they are not creative because they are not an artist?
Yes. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect question. And I've added a third category. So there's general creativity, and general creativity is just me putting on my hat, and using this shirt to wear today. And I wasn't sure if we were going to be video or no video. So that's general creativity. We use it all the time. Where when we think, oh, you know what, I'm going to take a walk today. That in and of itself is a general kind of creativity. It's like, I had an idea. I want to take a walk. And then once we step out the door, we're using that general creativity to decide which way we're going to go, or what we're going to do. Why am I going to walk? What am I going to do? Walking is super important to clear your mind and assist yourself in tuning into things that you want to really work on. The next level is conventional creativity. And that's what you are using when you're working on your podcast. You're thinking of, who do you want to interview? You're thinking of how you want to set everything up. You're thinking about scheduling. You're thinking about intro. You're thinking about all these ways in which to make the podcast better. And that's conventional creativity. It's everywhere. Everybody uses it every day. And why it's in some ways, it's why some people get better at what they're doing and other people may just stay the same or not, or decline, is that the more we're using our conventional creativity, the better we're going to be at what we're engaged in, because we're thinking about it, we're feeling it. It's like, what do I really feel about my podcast? How do I open up to move to make it better? Those distinguish people from each other. So conventional creativity is super important. We use it every day, and it's good to strengthen that also. And the third one is the easy one to for everybody knows when they look at a painting, someone was being creative. When they listen to music,
Yeah,
someone is
definitely.
being
Yeah.
creative. Even when they're looking at architecture, they know someone had to really be thinking about what the building is going to look like. So that's specialized creativity. But that also applies to the sciences and to mathematics and to invention and sometimes within business. When you have a big idea, that's a specialized level of creativity. So those are the kind of
Yeah, thank you so much.
the three
Yeah,
levels of
for
that.
sharing.
Yeah.
So you are completing two manuscripts. Your exhibits internationally. You teach martial arts. You consult on innovation. What does your own creative practice look like, and what happened? What happened to you when you step out from it?
Super question. I've just started about 2 years ago. I started painting portraits. This was and this is after 50 years of painting, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was so challenging and still is challenging. And I'm that's what moves me and inspires me and challenges me to look at new things and to push myself and surprise myself and to put myself in a place where, holy moly, I don't know if I can do this. Even after 50 years of painting, it was really, really hard. And I'm just now getting to the place where I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing. I can make a portrait now. But that's just the beginning. I want to go further. I want to really express. So those are the things that I think all of us need to remember to not become complacent and just like coast. Like, yeah, whatever. That's not good for us. And it's not good for the people, our friends and our family. You know, we need to challenge ourselves and to
Yeah,
dream and to push. Otherwise, it nothing much will
yeah,
happen. So that's the place that I feel like I'm in right now. And it's exciting. I'm really and I'm having a lot of fun with.
yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And also, you talk about the creative void, the uncomfortable
Mm.
space between idea, between projects, between version of yourself. Most people try to escape it fast as possible. What do you teach about people? What do you teach people to do inside the void instead?
Yeah, part of it is to just realize that you're inside of a void. That it's sort of like when you wake up in the middle of the night, it you can't do much about it. You know, it's night, right? And that's the void. So once you realize you're in the void, you can start to, in a way, make a relationship with it. And this is not easy. It takes a mentor. I remember how I was creative when I was little, but I feel like I'm just in nothingness. And then once you realize that, you can, like back to the analogy, if you wake up in the middle of the night and it's like, oh my gosh, it's night, you know you can't do
Yeah,
anything about it. You can look at the clock and say, oh, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You have a couple choices. You can go back to sleep or you could get up. So when you realize that you want to be creative, but you feel like you're in this blank space or this void, then you can start thinking about how to change that. And that's what I help people with is how were you creative? And so these little steps are the ways in which people can reconnect and restore themselves to their it's natural. It's inside of all of us. You know, it can't go anywhere. So we can always reconnect with it. We can always restore our creativity.
yeah, we can also.
So the void is real, but it's not
Mm,
forever.
yeah, the
It's
void
just
is real. It's not forever, and yeah, we can always reconnect it. So, lastly, for an entrepreneurs or leaders listening right now who feel like their thinking has become mechanical, repetitive, and uncreative, what is the one shift that opened the door back to genuine innovation?
Well, I part of it is again, I think is really taking time and in a way, and this sounds kind of wacky, but in a way honoring being stuck or being lost. It's kind of like the void. It's like if you're in a project and the project's not going anywhere, obviously
Yeah,
there are reasons for
yeah,
that. So sit back, take a walk. I part of what I help people do is journal. And a journal is a very special place that's completely private. Nobody will ever read it except if you want them to, then you can say, oh, you can read this little section. A journal is a place where no matter what you're feeling, if as we're talking about being stuck or not knowing what to do or feeling like what how do I move this project forward? The journaling is a place to really reflect on that, to write about how you're feeling about it, how you're thinking about it, how you used to feel about it. Think about how you were stuck 2 years ago in some situation that you were working on. And it's like, what were the things that got you unstuck? Being stuck is important. It gives you information about the whole project. And to look at it again in a way, it's back to the name of your podcast. Quit what you were doing. Just shut everything down. Just stop the whole movement of or non-movement and sit there for it may take an afternoon, it may take a week, who knows? But you have to really be honest with yourself and look at yourself, but look at the project, the objective, anything from a painting to a new kind of software or a widget or whatever it might be. Look at it from as many different perspectives and directions. Turn it upside down. As a painter, we learn early when a painting is if something is wrong and you're not quite sure, turn it upside down. Have a mirror in your studio. Look at the painting in a mirror. So you shift the perspective. you turn it upside down and everything shifts. You notice instantly. It's like, oh my gosh, their nose is way too small and you have to make it bigger, or their eyes are in the wrong place, or the mouth is all wonky, or whatever it might be. That's how we can evaluate a situation. No matter it works with friendships. It's like, what am I doing with my friend that we seem to be not going out to have coffee anymore? What am I doing? What have I done? And ask yourself. So it's looking at things in a new perspective that is super, super important to move forward. And having that inner feeling, even if it doesn't make sense, having the inner feeling like, I am going to figure this out. The answers are going to come to me. I can move forward. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
So having the confidence that this is hard, I'm completely stuck. I don't know what to do next. But have a part of yourself that says, yeah, I'll figure this out.
Yeah.
I know I can.
Yeah. Amazing.
Just have that special little kind of confidence, even though it might feel
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah. Amazing.
But that's what's great about being human, is that we do impossible things all the time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick. This has really been amazing. The part that, yeah, have the confidence. If you are being unstuck, look at it again. What are the pattern that got you there before? Look towards it. Change the view. Change it from different other perspective to look deeper. So, Patrick, from our audience who would love to reach out to you, who would love to connect with the work you're doing and follow you across various media, how can they reach out and where is the best platform?
Sure. Thanks for asking, Ara. I have a new, well, somewhat new. It actually, I've been doing it for a while. I have a Substack called How to Make a
Mm,
Painting. So it's not just about how to hold a brush and how to put paint on the brush and how to stick it on a canvas or whatever. I talk about that a little bit, but I talk about kind of what we're talking about. I talk about how you need to go take a walk, or you need to look at a book, or you need to talk to a friend while you're making the painting. That is part of how paintings are
yeah,
made. And that's to help people to understand, how do I make a podcast? It takes everything. It's about who you know, who you talk to, what you're reading, what you're writing. All those things are part of how to make a podcast. So my Substack is called How to Make a Painting, and I'm on my third painting. The first painting I wrote 33
cool.
posts about the first painting, and then the next painting was maybe 10, and then I've just started a new
Yeah,
painting. I can be found on Instagram at PMW Creativity, and I post a drawing every day, and there's 3,350 some drawings on my Instagram. Then I have another Instagram called PMW under slash camera, and I post a photograph every day that I make.
yeah,
And I have three websites: patrickwilliams.celebrationflowerpaintings.com. Those are art sites, those two. And then Patrick Williams Stay Creative is my business.
yeah, amazing.
And if you want to send me an email, patrick@patrickwilliams.com. I'm happy to communicate with
Yeah,
folks.
thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you for bringing out this depth. Yeah, the wisdom, this quiet, conviction to quit to win. Yeah, your reminder that creativity is never lost, only waiting to be restored, and that intuition is itself one of the most creative arts a person can follow. And yeah, is the one that actually sit more with the audience and long after this episode. And if today sparked something in you, share this episode with someone who believes that they are not creative because they are, and they need to hear that from someone who has spent 40 years improving that. Remember that you were born creative. Everything that come after that is just condition. And condition can never be undone. Yeah, once again, a pleasure and honor have you on the show, Patrick.
It was a pleasure to be here, Ara. Thank you so much.